And it's what I have understood so far from different indigenous traditions is that it's all about the balance, right? It's not about killing the bad, but it's more of like integrating it and letting it being led by the light. I mean, as you see with the flame, I mean, the shadow can only just follow the light. I mean, there's no other way around. So it's a balance. It's a dance between both sides, the masculine and the feminine, no matter if it's in a feminine or in a masculine body. But for sure, it is much more, let's say it's a resurgence of the feminine, I feel. Resurgence also, even in Europe, of the knowing of the witches, the knowing of the druids, because we did have also all of these ancient roots. It's just that we have forgotten it, or we've been made to forget it.
Welcome, I'm Rudy and this is Voices of Emergence. Together with my co-host Alex de Carvalho, we are honored to welcome Dana Ulrike Glatz, systems entrepreneur, impact investor and founder of the Global Impact Alliance. Dana's path spans finance, regeneration and leadership development. Through the Global Impact Alliance and Glatz Impact Ventures, she channels capital and collaboration toward projects that regenerate ecosystems, empower communities and foster systemic coherence. Bridging global foresight with embodied wisdom, Dana also draws on the guidance of elders and her own family lineage, weaving ancestral teachings into modern systems change. Her work reminds us that transformation is not only financial or strategic, but rooted in sacred reciprocity with life. Welcome, Dana.
Oh, wow. Thank you. That sounds amazing. We can stop here. And we just have to make it happen. I think that's our task, to really embody it and to bring this inner wisdom and everything that we come from into action and into a new way of being.
Yeah, thank you for accepting our invitation, and it's great to have you here. So the first question to all guests, like when you hear the word emergence, what resonates most deeply with you?
Emergence. What I love about it is that it brings me right into my body, because this is for me where actually things emerge from being in this inner stillness and really sensing into, what's inside your skin. And I'm not talking like the organs, right? Just, all of that fluent energy that is there, and, the inspiration that you feel deep in your gut, and then, that moves up and then hopefully out of your mouth in more or less adequate words, or it moves into some kind of action. So for me, that's emergence from the inside. And then probably also when we meet, when we truly meet with people, like the little chat that we had before, where, suddenly, all these new thoughts come, where somehow there is a space created in between us, and then something new emerges, something that we couldn't have thought of alone. So for me, this is what comes to mind.
Thank you, Dana. Yeah, I really loved our chat and your upcoming trip to Brazil, and and this incredible symbolic journey from Manaus to Belém on the river and in the middle of the forest and the breathing forest. It's quite an experience. I've been to Manaus and you really feel the presence, like it's a being that's there breathing and so alive. I'd like to know, your journey bridges finance, regeneration, leadership. What were the experiences that prepared you for this path? Were there moments in your life that were pivotal, that brought you here?
Okay. Well, I would, interestingly, right now, I would say it all started in the garden of my parents. Just helping them out, right? I mean, very German family. So we also had a vegetable and fruits garden and flowers, etc. And I think that just being born into this rootedness, and this village life, and in, let's say, how would you call that? Street and land-wise wisdom, of this post-World War generation, of course, with all the trauma that comes along with it. But yeah, just to being very much in touch, with nature. I think that was a good start and something that I keep going back to. I mean, even though then after a while, you go into all of this academic concepts and theories and theory of change and complexity theory and financial structures and systems, etc. But at the end of the day, I go back actually to that kind of simplicity, the small recipes, what to do to make sure that the snails don't eat the salad, I mean, yeah, I think that's a good base and pivotal moments in my life. I would think that it was definitely my time in India. Yeah, somehow that's when my whole spiritual journey started, because I was really not raised, with, let's say, any spiritual dimension in my life, besides the usual Catholic upbringing. I always sensed as a child that there is more to life than, just the material world. I was always wondering, why am I inside this body and I'm looking into the world, through these eyes? And why can I not be in another body and see from their perspective? Like, how come? Why am I kind of like caged into this thing here? This, I don't know, body, skin container, that I also have to move around. Like in my mind, I do like this, and I'm sitting with you having a coffee, right? Wherever you are. But in this life, I somehow need to put this body into a train, a car, a flight, and it takes ages. So somehow I always had this kind of sense that this is not all there is. In Sadhguru's words, it would probably be, I'm not my mind, I'm not my body. But I think I really found words for it when I was in India and I started with meditation and yoga and martial arts and studying different wisdom traditions. So that somehow then gave me words and gave me a practice, which I think for me was very much fundamental to do what I'm doing today.
Beautiful. This, I know you also, I think you explain on your website, and you write about your family lineage and the responsibility you feel in carrying it forward, so, and this weekend I was at a conference, which was Genesis Experience in Brussels, and it was kind of interesting because usually at conferences we meet either people from the left or from the right or from diverse backgrounds, and it's we can mingle. But that specific conference was actually about bringing together the polarized sides. And one speaker, I can't recall his name now, it's Ronald or something, I think he's German also, had a discourse on resonance and how, traditional families, that are usually, let's say, more on the right because they have the traditional lineage coming through also, not just by ancestral lineage, but also with property and all that. And then the comparison with people from the left who are not so much into property or who are perhaps first generation, but a lot of them since the 60s have a different view on life. They are more into climate change and they are perhaps fearful of what's going to happen, so they don't make babies. Traditional families on the right, they create good, healthy families, with 3, 4, 5 children sometimes. And so on the left, we see that difference. So I wonder also, and we see that also, that I think this idea of resonance, that you really feel rooted in your lineage like you have, it doesn't have nothing to do with wealth, but, just like being rooted in your family and in your lineage compared to the people who are not. And we see that a lot in our communities as well. They have this big need to belong. And what we are seeing now is a lot of people who also go back to ancestral wisdom, to these connections, to these traditions of like, where do we come from? What are our roots? What have we forgotten? So how do you experience this yourself, your family tradition, your lineage, then with your experience of going to India, learning different ways of life or how we can live life, and how you basically got to do what you do now?
Yeah, I mean, the family lineage is something that I simply grew up with it. My dad was very much interested in ancestry research, and he was spending, a lot of time in really understanding all of the family tree and going to all kinds of churches and, reading like the old kind of German, to figure out where all of our ancestors have come from, etc. And then out of this, a whole book on it actually emerged. So I was always already as a teenager very involved in that. But in a way, I don't know. As a teenager, you find it very annoying, because there is actually a family newsletter and then there's a family association and then they meet, once in a year and then you have to go there. And it's not actually very inspiring, I have to say, because it's really the old generation and it's, conservare. So it's really like maintain things in an old status, right? And I felt that there was not that much of deeper reflections and feeling really into the future. There was, I would say, no emergence. There was more of conserving things, and that can be very good. But yeah, I think it really lacked the discernment, what should be conserved, what should be maintained, and what needs to be renewed, right? So I'm coming from, in that sense, a very conservative background, I would say. And just going into all of these different countries and different cultures, I think that very much just helped for me open my mind, open also the question to questioning my values, questioning to where I come from, questioning everything, like the belief systems, everything, that has been implanted in me, discovering all of also the family lineage in terms of the trauma, that we carry, what all comes along with such a long family line, being a German in a world that, certainly is suffering from colonial spirits and also all the history that we have from the World War, etc. So for me, moving away actually from where I come from has helped me a lot to, I feel, renew it in some ways and to be a different representative of this old lineage. So, and this is how I feel that a lot of the Western traditions that I respect, they do the same. They somehow really are very discerning about what they need to keep, like the base essentials and the principles, but then they still are also very open for renewal. They are very open to take up what the world requires, to really observe and to see and sense who are the other beings around them, what all is coming up, including all the technology, etc. And then based on these old principles and essentials, they work with it.
The story that's coming together for me is, I mean, it's such a clash to go from, let's say, like Germany and the structure to India, where things are perhaps more fluid, really from a paradigm of like the material and dualism into the wisdom teachings of non-duality in India, and from monotheism to polytheism, and like such a cultural, philosophical contrast, and it really works on consciousness. And I noticed that when we were talking, and I asked you about finance and money, and you were saying, well, I see it now more as streams, like maybe wisdom streams, or it's like an energy stream. And so, we have a story of capitalism that has captured us, and we're inside this system. It's like an extractive system, and it feels like we need to make a similar deconstruction. Like we have to deconstruct the story we know and emerge with a new regenerative story. And so I'm curious, how do you see capital, and what does it mean for capital to be in service of life? And do we need a new consciousness to understand this?
Yeah, absolutely. I do feel we need a new consciousness to understand it and to redirect what I call the sacred streams, to be in service of life, as you so beautifully called it. Yeah, I mean, first of all, just to get to, the part of your sharing, about me going from Germany all the way to India, from basically, this dualism into non-dualistic views and, basically also then the openness to chaos, that you find in India. Honestly, I did feel very at home there, very at home in India, probably also because I somehow started to think that, probably also because what I've learned in India, that, we might not be here for the first time. So there are things that you remember and that you're very used to and where you can feel totally home. So you don't really actually need to, once you remember that, it's not so difficult actually to unstrip that skin, from your past or from your upbringing, because you feel much more at home, in this new culture, in this more, let's say, spiritual way of being. So just to that point. And about capitalism, well, I feel that it's less about thinking now about, the system outside and how we need to reconstruct it, etc., etc. I feel it's really more of a reconnecting to self, a reconnecting to our inner rivers and to, what really makes us stable and healthy. And from that, as they teach also in India, from that inner peace and from that feeling that you're not separate of all of the other beings and that we are just one particle in this universe and just one part of life. From that new attitude that you could call a new consciousness or an opening to that consciousness and to everything there is, from that I feel in dialogue, with nature and with different people, we will automatically come up with a new system that is more in service. That requires getting out of the mind. I don't know if that answers your question. Because right now I'm also a little bit in just a flow of consciousness, if you want to call
That's
it that.
beautiful. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, flow is good.
Yeah, flow is very, very good. I know. Let's see what the spring once we are on the Amazon.
I want to take it
the
from,
good river.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I want to take it from being in a state of flow or being attuned to consciousness or presence, and from that space, or from that work or inner work and presence, embodiment, spirituality, non-dualism. How did that then also influence you in your evolution as a leader? Like you founded Global Impact Alliance. So how did you come from personal transformation or inner transformation into something that is tuning more towards systemic change, Global Impact Alliance?
Yeah, maybe it helps if I just share a little bit the story of the organization. So basically, very much rooted then in my learnings that I had in India. I was running a business in India, right? So for most of my time, I was thinking, actually, I was going to India for business, right? But I think that was just a surface story. The true reason why I was led to India, I think, was that spiritual initiation into different wisdom traditions, into just being home inside myself. And then through that business in India, I was invited to the World Economic Forum in Davos. And I thought, wow, amazing, because improving the state of the world, so I wanted to contribute, and that's their motto. And I had done a training with the UN and had learned about the SDGs and about impact investing. So for me, I was actually feeling very excited, to go there. But then as I was also trained and sensing the energy since my time in India, I arrived there and I felt like a stark contrast between, the tech, improving the state of the world and what I actually sensed when I was there. I did feel the mountains, which have an amazing, amazing power and strength and actually protect the whole region. But at the same time, what was going on, during the conference somehow just didn't feel conducive to life. And then from there, we actually started, with this Global Impact Alliance, where we felt, yes, it does need this multi-stakeholder dialogue, that they are also offering, at the World Economic Forum. However, it needs to be done with a focus on what's our positive impact that we can actually have on the planet, right? So that's how we all got started. But then, of course, as everyone is in evolution, so was I, and so is the organization. So first we started, with the SDGs and helping SDG impact entrepreneurs, with coaching and training and funding. But then worked basically our ass off just exactly with the same attitude, than what I had when I was working in business or even during the time as a management consultant. It was just exactly the same way of doing things, just, for a good cause, so to say. And I'm very thankful in some ways, actually, for COVID to happen, because it somehow brought the whole world to a halt. It really made us pause and reflect. And of course, it also had its horrendous happenings and consequences and suffering, etc. Not to deny that. However, I feel it was really like a shift of consciousness already in some ways, and of accelerating the growth of those who I feel are here to actually create this new paradigm. So for us, that was a break. We lost all of the funding that we had. We stopped operations, and I really felt called, by plant medicine, actually, by ayahuasca. To explore the wisdom, no longer from what I have known in Asia, in India, but actually of the rainforest, of the indigenous elders. And that really brought me very, very deep into much more of a systemic kind of sensing. The thinking came after emerging from that. And then I think from there, mapping this kind of different way of being and seeing and sensing the world, mapping this also towards finances was only a small step. Going from this linear thinking, like you have also even in impact investing where you say, okay, fine, we have a problem here, right? And then, oh, amazing, we have some technology or some other kind of solution there. So let's just put some capital, and then all will be good. I feel, okay, that's a first step. However, it mostly doesn't go deep enough, right? I mean, it sometimes neglects the root cause, and it definitely neglects how everything is interplaying with each other. So the systemic finance approach, since for me, makes much more sense. Of course, it's much more complex as life is. And it takes more time to actually build the trusted relationships, which is a base for it, a fundamental. And so we are growing totally through this, from being transactional to being really transformative and having trusted, bonded relationships where we are really in it together.
It's a fascinating journey from Germany, the structural, to India, much more semantic meaning, and then from there to the indigenous. How did that experience with the indigenous or indigenous practices, the cosmovision of the indigenous, what did that bring to you, or how did that make you think about systemic change and leadership? What was the effect?
Yeah. Well, I think I first of all realized what they were also teaching in India, the power of silence. That sometimes you can move so much more and you can convey so much more meaning by not saying anything and by just being in your full presence. That was something that I saw very, very embodied in quite a few of the indigenous leaders that I met. I went for a wisdom quest, basically, to different countries and interviewed political leaders and healers, the shamans of the different communities. And of course, I also went there with an idea of, I have these 10 questions and I'll ask them all these 10 questions, and then we will know what is actually the indigenous view on leadership, on connection to spirit, connection to nature. And then, surprise, it didn't go that way. No question and answer, like we are doing it basically, is happening mostly with indigenous leaders. But it's more of really sensing into each other, getting to know each other, sitting together in circle, doing medicine together. Walking actually through the forest, discovering, what is actually there, what is needed. Yeah, very pragmatic, basic things sometimes also where you just are asked to help. And and what I have experienced with them is just such a presence and such a different leadership style that goes far beyond having a MBA from whatever, Harvard, MIT, if you name it. It's just such a different way of responsibility that I feel also, if you want to talk legacy and old families, I really feel that would be that kind of leadership, that I would wish to see more, where really you are in it with your full body, not only with, your financial means and your mind, but really with your full body, with your full spirit, and in relationship with everyone that is involved in whatever you're doing.
Interesting. I want to dig deeper a bit here because I'm really fascinated also by, how finance or, can work with, the indigenous wisdom and the ideas of regeneration. And I really think that there's a big opportunity, or there's actually a portal where we all need to dive into that, in order to move from scarcity mindset into abundant mindset. And what I often see still in regenerative finance is that we just create the same project with the same logic of what was, from money and technology as a very linear structure, or we always need a return on investment. While actually, I think the real care for Mother Earth and for humanity will take a lot more than just like projects that are expecting a return on investment. So I want to see, or I want to hear from you, like, what is your view, your vision of like How does that actually work? This pragmatic vision of finance, and how do you see it bridge towards these ideas of regeneration, indigenous wisdom, eventually with new types of technology? Of how do you see that evolve?
First of all, I mean, there is definitely always a return. The only thing is it might not be a financial one or not a very high financial one. It might also take more time. So I feel the base of it is definitely, again, being patient and, giving things the time they need to grow. So with that, it's connecting actually to plants and to seasons, and to really be, as the indigenous communities do, really be there and observe. And you will see that you cannot just 10x a plant, you cannot also just, put some seeds out there and then just exit right away and think, it will not have an impact. It just doesn't work, right? Things really need time to grow, and whatever you try to grow, it needs a certain environment. So I feel that it's a bit of, like the science of biomimicry, where you really study nature to develop technology, in a non extractive and non-destructive way to nature. I think we have to do the same for finance, to really see how we can mimic the streams of life, and then translate that into financial streams, financial instruments, etc. So it does actually need to get into immersive experiences. I don't think that we can continue to meet inside some concrete blocks, in some square houses, and talk sustainability in nature. I really do feel that we need to be immersed in the jungle, our feet on the soil, in the leaves, and with everything that comes along with it, whatever, the bugs and the heat and the cold, and spend them more time, and have this deep connect with all of these indigenous wisdom traditions, and see how they actually explain things and co-develop it together. Because I do feel, not that we have all the answers, nor do they, but I do feel, according also to this eagle and condor prophecy, that this is the time where actually we should fly together. And for that, of course, you need to somehow have the trust to fly, to jump into it, into the unknown, and get into alignment with the other wings, but not just to your own flight. And I feel that if we weave together the ancestral knowledge systems with the deep knowing of cycles that they have, and the deep knowing of the relationality of everything, I feel that we could come up with new solutions. So I don't have them. I know that, the different groups and institutes that are exploring systemic investments, I mean, they're totally, onto something. But I think we will just need a lot of time together, indigenous and non-indigenous people, to explore this.
It does feel like it's a time that the condor is starting to fly again.
Very much.
Yeah, very much, right? It's there's something going on. And speaking of the forest and having your feet in the leaves and the flow of the river, I believe you're going on a trip soon back into the forest, into the Amazon. Tell me a little bit about your trip and what you hope will happen, and does it fit in?
Okay, so my trip is again inspired by actually what happens during the night. I started to have dreams of the Amazon, of this brown big mass of water, which is energetically very powerful, and was just drawing me towards Brazil. And of course, I knew that there will be the COP30, and that it's going to be a very important gathering in the forest, right, in the middle of nature. So that alone was attractive. But then you add on, this kind of dream, and me having started to really pay attention to this science. I now organize a journey actually from Manaus to Belém, which is 6 days before the actual COP starts. And we're going to be 14 people together on a boat that we have baptized the Ancestral Wisdom Boat, because the whole idea is to really provide a space where indigenous and non-indigenous leaders can actually meet and really bond. And I think there's no better place than being on a boat together for 6 days, right? And it's not a big boat. I think we will really get to know each other. And of course, we will have a facilitated process of finding together as a crew, as a wisdom crew. And we will work with the rituals that the indigenous leaders will bring in. We will work with the wisdom that the non-indigenous guests will bring and weave in. And we will stop at different indigenous communities, regenerative projects, at the Ribarino communities, the Riverside community, and hoping to arrive, and I'm sure we will, totally differently prepared in Belém, in contrast to just flying in, and coming from one airport to the other and then just hopping right away into meetings with a mind-based agenda. So I do feel that we will create a special space with the help also of the river, with the help of the jungle, and with obviously the objective to come out of this journey also with concrete plans for cooperating, for really spending more time with each other, for going to the territories of the indigenous leaders, and for maybe starting already to co-create one of these systemic financial systems that we need.
Beautiful plans, yeah. So, and let us know if we can help you also to promote, your event or at COP30 or bring people together. We have our community as well. So, but I wanna come back again to sorry for my insistence, but it's really
Please insist.
one of my topics that I would like to get more clarity on is, the traditional system or money system that we are in is all about individuality and all that. I make money for myself and, and I need to reach that. And, it's all individualistic mindset, productivity, efficiency, and all that. While the original sense of an entrepreneur was there to make something for his community.
Of value.
And value creation. So, and that's all even, let's say 100 or 150 years ago. So, and now we are totally in this twisted, reality, I think, which is also part of a very wounded masculine identity that got accelerated with, the algorithms and all that. And in order to move from that, me versus a we principle that, investors are going to see that it's not just a return on investment from a material thing, but actually the return on investment from the community, that we can move from the harsh, wounded, sick society that we are seeing now into something that is really healthy, playful, happy, that is actually the return. So, and I wanted to know, do you see this already in your environment, in your networks, that financing people or people with money are actually starting to see this and willing to invest in that? And also perhaps we can move then slowly into the importance of feminine leadership involved in that move that is absolutely necessary, in order to balance both energies again.
Yeah, I mean, I totally see that happening. I mean, in my surrounding, absolutely. And I start to feel also that I'm now already very much swimming in this bubble, right? I mean, I hardly meet anyone who is thinking otherwise. I mean, I had an encounter with the old world that you are describing, which I call the old world, right? When I was at Climate Week just now in a very big family office and philanthropy reception where energetically there was no alignment at all. So yes, I know there is still, let's say, still probably majority wealth out there that is working more on preserving the financial stake and preserving the material world for themselves and being pretty unconnected to the natural wealth and to the well-being of other people in the society. Still, in my world, in my bubble, yes, there is a lot of impact investors that I know and that I count as dear friends who do a lot of incredible work, both in investments and in philanthropy. And they're exploring, this notion of systemic investing. So there is actually a lot happening. And I feel it just needs maybe a few more pilots to prove, especially the systemic investing approach with certain bioregions. And that's why I feel we have a real good opportunity with, let's say, 2 of the indigenous communities that we work with to start something actually on their territory together with all of the other indigenous and non-indigenous people that live there. And, really explore, the different financial instruments that are actually needed to, over the long run, really preserve, this habitat and develop it as a bioeconomy that really adheres to these ancestral wisdom principles. And I feel once we have more of this kind of pilots and blueprints in combination with, I think, probably many more environmental calamities happening with all of the societal upheaval that comes along with it, I feel that this will give us much more good reasons, actually, to have many more of this systemic investment projects than we are seeing today. I'm laughing because I see both of like,
Yeah, and the
what is your
question,
thoughts on this? Share with me.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, it's because I've been through indigenous practices as well, including the Vision Quest, and also the Lakota tradition sun dance.
Oh, wow.
For women, there's the moon dance, and for men, there's the sun dance. And so I've been participating in the sun dance, which is an annual thing. And truly, there is a different cosmovision. I've also been a little bit exposed to the Kogi tribe in Colombia. I haven't been there, but I've been exposed and I've seen them and I've spoken with them, and they have quite a different cosmovision, a different way of understanding reality itself, which is very powerful, interesting. It's amazing. And so I wonder, do you frame, let's say, if there's a change happening now, if the condor is starting to fly with the eagle, do you frame it as feminine leadership coming into the world, or feminine qualities coming into the world? Or is it more like a greater embodiment, like out of the mind into the body? Like, how do you see what's the change that's happening?
I would call it wise leadership, where you have a balance between the feminine and the masculine, where you have a balance between, this ancestral wisdom traditions and what I mentioned earlier, what I also know from my family, like this essential principles, and protocols on how life actually works and what we need to align and adhere to, these natural laws. And the new and the modern, all of the instruments that we have nowadays, all of the technology, I'm very happy to use it with a very conscious approach, and also being very careful also what unintended negative consequences it could have. And so I would call it, it's a dance between the masculine and the feminine. Sometimes also one is more needed than the other, but at the end, once this is balanced, I think we're all good. And even about, this discussion, the good against the evil. That is something that for me was very surprising, because of course I grew up with the idea that, we're the good ones and we have to fight the evil, right? Then it went on, to this discovery that we all have this good and evil inside us. The big question is only like, which side are you feeding? But still, I would always say, not deny the shadow. It is there. It is a part of our lives. And it's the same what I've seen in, for example, Balinese wisdom traditions, where also, the demons are there and they are part of it. And it's what I have understood so far from different indigenous traditions is that it's all about the balance, right? It's not about killing the bad, but it's more of like integrating it and letting it being led by the light, as you see with the flame. I mean, the shadow can only just follow the light. I mean, there's no other way around. So it's a balance. It's a dance between both sides, the masculine and the feminine, no matter if it's in a feminine or in a masculine body. But for sure, it is much more, let's say, it's a resurgence of the feminine, I feel. Resurgence also, even in Europe, of the knowing of the witches, the knowing of the druids, because we did have also all of these ancient roots. It's just that we have forgotten it, or we have made to, we've been made to forget it. Just too many witches burned, etc. So yeah, I think that's it's a reconnection simply to the feminine, in the sense of Mother Earth for me is a mother, right? It's a feminine, and once we are reconnected to that and to the cycles, no matter if you identify ourselves as man or woman, this is going to be the entrance gate for what I call an age of wisdom.
Yeah, once we are there, like finding that balance in between masculine and feminine energies, both women, both men, and any gender type, I think is the humus, is the compost of actually any type of new system that we can design for the future. Out of that healthy balance, we can design new systems. And as long as we don't find it, it's going to be keep on composting, and keep on working. But I see more and more people, like doing the work, more and more communities also. It's growing. It's been growing over the last couple of years, and there's more and more physical events to stay connected through the networks. So what I'm curious about also, what are your personal practices that to keep you in balance of your healthy masculine, feminine, or, like personal, things that you do to keep you in balance?
Maybe just one thing that I would love to add about this age of wisdom, because I feel this is really a major shift, because so far everyone in this world of sustainability or sustainable finance, etc., is talking still about, 2030, and nowadays, it's in 2050, right, by which we are climate neutral, or by which we should have reached the SDGs. And I feel that this is one of the major things that actually are nowadays changing, by being more in tune with ourselves and being more in the here and now. Again, something that they very much teach in Asian wisdom traditions. Because I feel that this age of wisdom is nothing for the future. It's nothing that happens at a certain point of time, in the future. It's not like a gate that is like very far away from here, but it's a gate that is actually within us. Like once we are rooted, really, to the earth, so that we can actually upload her wisdom, and we are really rooted, to the greater spirit, and we can download that. And then we are really, again, this kind of like access, and then through the heart, like this, we really bring, this wisdom, that we receive into the world. This is the age of wisdom. We're already here. I can feel it now, I feel a lot of energy while I'm sharing this with you. And for me, this is a portal that is opening, where then new things can actually emerge. So, and for me, this is important, and it's a major shift, because it changes basically the whole time-space continuum that we are usually used to work in. It's very metaphysical, right? But it's also, I feel that this body is also a metaphysical instrument, right? So in terms of my practice, it's, it's always remembering that, to go back to my body and doing breath work, doing Shambhavi Kriya, which I learned in India, different breathing techniques, and yoga, definitely something that totally stabilizes you in a very grounded way. And it is also, I feel the different postures are also keys to different dimensions. So doing this very consciously, and not as just part of a packed schedule. That is that, and Hape also, the indigenous medicine that very grateful to. That definitely is part of my personal practice.
Well, we share that in common, because Hape has been a part of my journey as well. And also we share the ketogenic diet, which has been very important for me as well. And it creates such incredible clarity when I'm on ketogenic. We're coming to a close, and this has been an absolute pleasure. I would ask, as a last question, if the elders could speak through you in this moment, what wisdom would they plant for the future? What seed would they plant for the future?
I think the main message, what they would say, is that we need to just remember. We need to remember our own roots, our own stories, and sit in nature and listen, because then we'll know what is ours to do and what is needed. Be more in a mode of observing and learning and humility. They would speak about reciprocity, about, which is the contrast of our extractive way of doing things. So right away, like feel into, the reciprocal exchange, between not only us humans, but between all beings. And I feel right now what comes to mind is what has been downloaded by the Earth Elders. You might have heard of Mindahi, an amazing elder from Mexico, Toltec tradition, who I hold in very high esteem. And these Earth Elders basically downloaded certain mandates, and one of it is to build an Earth shield of these 52 bioregions, and to build houses of original thought. And I feel that these two missions, I could imagine in maybe in different words, in different sub-segments of this bigger projects, would be shared actually by them, and they would ask for help and for the condor and the eagle to meet. And yeah, for us to just simply spend more time in the forest, in the jungle, more time with them, to listen and to learn and to exchange.
Thank you, Dana. Beautiful message. And just a reflection came on that actually, while we are also, balancing masculine and feminine energy out in indigenous tribes, there's also usually a very patriarchal lineage. They're also innovating actually, and there's more and more women also becoming shaman and becoming tribe leaders, which is very interesting to see as well, and it's happening at the same time. So
resurgence of the feminine. That's true.
Exactly. So thank you so much for your time and wisdom. And Alex, you have a last word?
Thank you so much for the inspiration for the work you do and for your vision. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you to you for all of your questions and for allowing this beautiful flow to happen.